Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Time for our weekly Q&A session with me, Andrew Musgrove, and our Newcastle United editor, Aaron Stokes. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter on Chronicle NUFC accounts, and later on our podcast channel. If you're listening on the podcast channel, please remember to like and follow and leave us a rating and review as well. Thank you to everyone who has done so far. Plenty to talk about, Aaron, as per with Newcastle United. Of course, the first game of the new Premier League season kicked off, and the Magpies beat Nottingham Forest 2-0. Fantastic atmosphere up at St James's Park, matched by a fantastic display from Newcastle United. It was dominant in every sense of the word. Before we get into that, what we're going to do every week is I'm going to ask Aaron a little quiz question where I give him 5 clues and he has to name the footballer, the Newcastle United footballer, past or present, that is the link. So for you guys watching live, we want you guys to play along as well. And of course, if you are playing along on the podcast, we welcome that as well. So I'm going to give Aaron the 5 clues. It's going to be a mixture of players, teams that this link is either played for or maybe done something really special against. But the answer will always be a Newcastle United player, past or present. So the 5 links are, Aaron: Leicester City, Wolves, Sunderland, Grimsby, and Andy Cole. We'll come back later in the show to get your answer. If you're playing along live, as I say, do pop into the comments and see if you can name the Newcastle United link to these 5 clues: Leicester City, Wolves, Sunderland, Grimsby, and Andy Cole. And every week we'll do it and see how Aaron does with those clues. Now, as I said there, Aaron, Newcastle beat Nottingham Forest 2-0. Great way to start the season. I did fear it might have been a bit of a banana peel, but they got through the test and never really looked in danger of actually slipping up on this banana peel and falling flat on the backsides, did they?
No, not at all. I thought once that first goal went in, I thought they were going to run away with it. It took a while to break Forest down. Forest maybe not accustomed to Premier League life just yet. They were sort of very, very poor first half, and it looked like at half time it might be one of those days when Newcastle just can't put the ball in the net. But look, by the second half, they'd sort of ground them down. Really good team performance. Sturdy at the back when they needed to be. Good going forward with some really sort of flowing moves. Look, I don't think every game will be as easy as that, but a very, very good start to the season for Newcastle.
Got John Steele there saying, great team performance, should have scored more, but 2 goals and 3 points. Clean sheet, can't ask for more. Almiron, still a concern about his composure in front of goal. What's our thoughts? Well, we're going to get on to Almiron later in the show, but as I've read John's comment out there, let's start with Almiron. I thought it was a decent enough performance from what I saw. Admittedly, I didn't see the full game. I wasn't there. But he looked like, he was making all of the right runs. He was proving a threat. For Shaw's goal, he took the defender out, didn't he, to the wide. Yes, he probably should have scored at least one. But I enjoyed seeing that kind of selfish streak in him as well, because it was late in the second half when Henderson makes a good save and Wilson really wanted the pass off Almiron, but Almiron wanted to take it himself, and all that stopped him was Henderson making a decent save. So I think, that was a good performance from Almiron. Yes, as John says, few concerns, but really it's only one, isn't it? It's the end product. But, I think against Brighton, going in a lot further into the season, I think those goals will come from Almiron.
Hopefully. I think, this is probably the only thing me and you disagree on from Saturday, is that I thought he was making the good runs, Almiron in behind. Bruno was finding him a lot with these sort of deft passes, which sort of defense splitting passes. But he just has not got a right foot. And I don't think I've noticed it as much until Saturday just gone, because there were so many times where you thought, just hit it first time, cross it. And because he's got to take it back onto his left, I think that was the only thing that let him down really on Saturday. And look, he still had a good performance. I'm not trying to dig him out because, he did show moments where you thought, that he's looking good. He's looking like he's carrying on that preseason form. But I just think if they're signing 1 or 2 players still this month, I think to take us to the next level, you really need another right midfielder in.
We've got Becca Oliver there saying, I think you'd have missed Miggy if you hadn't been there on Saturday. He was all over the field and really put a lot of pressure on. And yeah, he did. And you're talking there about him not shooting when he's had the chance. Now he's not a young whippersnapper, is he? He's a mature lad, and can that be taught? Is that something? How can, if we're sitting here saying that, people in the comments are sitting there saying that? I remember a few episodes ago we were told by a lot of people in the comments about, is it a concern that he doesn't shoot? He hasn't got a right foot, isn't it? That's what a lot of people were saying. Is that something? How can teach you the next couple of weeks and say, look, Mickey, just hit it. If it goes into the Gallagher, I'd rather you do that than not shoot when you've got the chance.
I think if Howe's having to teach Miggy this to use his weak foot at the age of 28, then there's no hope for him really. Because look, there was one moment in that first half where Bruno plays a ball through the defence, Miggy runs onto it, and because the ball's just about to go out of play at the byline, Miggy has to use his right foot. So Miggy sweeps across in with his right foot, and Henderson has to turn it onto the post. One of Miggy's best chances, but he only used his right foot in that situation because he literally did not have the time to take the touch, sat himself on the left. It happened in the second half where, Miggy had the chance to shoot and he just thought, no, I need to get it back on my left, and the chance goes. And I just think, if we're talking, obviously there's been linked with so many right midfielders this summer, like Samusa Diaby, both footed. Even Maxi, when you look at him on the other wing, he's both footed. And I think that's the one thing that I thought let Miggy down. I agree with the comments. He ran about a lot, as he always does. He gave us all. He was very, very dangerous at times. But I just think if Newcastle want to go to that level that they're aspiring to, they do probably need a better right midfielder. And I hate to say it.
We've got Roger Cook here saying Miggy was Miggy, ran more, looked about a bit more. Yet again, when the killer touch was needed, it wasn't there. Frequently not enough. I'd prefer a replacement. And it's interesting here, we're talking about bringing in potentially another winger. We know Newcastle are in the market for it. But I still don't think it's necessarily a priority. It would be nice to bring another winger of quality and go up a level. But when you look at how long's left in the window, you look at the budget, you look at what selling teams are charging, you look who's a realistic option. We mentioned Diaby. Newcastle really liked him. It was going to cost them the best part of maybe 50 million. He decided to stay at Leverkusen because of Champions League football. And Newcastle are facing these challenges in the market. For now, it's not a priority in my opinion, because you have Miggy, who I do think is going to have his best season on Tyneside. You then have Fraser, who can come off the bench and offers a totally different kind of threat down that way. And you got Jacob Murphy again, who, other than not scoring a bit like Miggy, he offers quite a bit in the Premier League. He's a decent enough Premier League player. And I think it just rolls into, it's a slow and steady build. This time next year, when we're looking at the end of the summer window of 2023, yes, we're having these conversations. And if Miggy and Fraser are still first choice, battling out would be first choice, and they haven't brought in another winger, then maybe we can start saying we need that right here, right now. But for where we are in this journey, I don't think it's a priority.
I think for where we are in this transfer window and the amount of setbacks we've had so far, I think if they're going to get one player over the line in the next couple of weeks, I agree. I think it should be a striker, someone that can be, a very, very useful backup to Callum Wilson. If they're going for two, then I think, a striker and another right midfielder would really, really sort of close the gap to the top seven. Newcastle can play like that, as they did all across the pitch, but with a top class right midfielder, then I think the gap between the big boys gets a lot smaller, a lot quicker. But look, I like Miggy. I think he's had a very good season. I agree. I think he will have a good season. But I just thought on Saturday, it was the only thing me and you disagreed on this morning, is because I just thought there was so many times where I just thought, this is the difference,
We've got Becca here, who I think is a big fan of Miggy. Miggy might be 28, and I get what you're saying about how having to teach him at this age is a farce. But let's not forget the drab management he's had for his Newcastle United career. Look at the progress Joe Linton has made under Howe. It's an interesting point, and I think everyone will agree that this is a massive season for Miguel Almiron. It's a massive couple of weeks, really, because he's got the chance against Brighton, a little harder against City, to kind of just say, look, give me till January and I'll prove everyone wrong. And this is what I haven't been producing. These are the goals that you've all been wanting for the last few years. It's a big few weeks from.
But but as you've been saying that, I've just had the biggest sense of deja vu, because we sat here in this room before the end of last season, when there was about 6 games to go, Ryan Fraser got injured at St James's Park, and we were sat here going, "This is it. This is Miggy's chance to show what he can do." I really like Miggy. He's a completely honest player, but he flatters to deceive so much. And I'm going into the season. He's had such an amazing summer, 6 or 7 goals in pre-season. He's looked in the form of his life. He's got to now show that he can do that in the Premier League on a consistent basis, or he will just fall by the wayside and he'll be replaced. But as Becca says, Eddie Howe, he's done wonders with Joelinton. He's turned him into a monster in the midfield. He's improved Fabian Shaw. Shaw's back at that level that we saw under Benitez. Maxi, I think, is going to have a really good season. He looked really, really good on Saturday. He looks sharper. He looks fitter. He looks quicker. His decision-making looks better. So look, Eddie Howe makes players stronger. You just need to hope that Miggy's one of them this season.
Now, before we get into the next point, which is about the defence, just a reminder that we are holding a live event before the Manchester City game on August the 21st. It'll be at the Tyneside Irish Centre, which is just down from St James's Park. So perfect chance for you guys to come along, speak to our writers, which include Aaron here. We'll have Lee Ryder on the panel. We'll have Gibbo as well, and the Times' Henry Winter. It's free entry. All you've got to do is sign up to the Eventbrite link, which is in the comments. I think Aaron's going to pop it in again. So that's free entry. There'll be a raffle and such to raise some funds for the Sir Boy Robson Foundation and the food bank as well. So do click on that link. There's a limited amount of tickets. Sign up. Like I say, once again, free entry. You can come and quiz our panel and the Times' Henry Winter, one of the most esteemed journalists in the country. Just talk about all things Newcastle United. Come and enjoy that, and then head up to St James's Park to watch Newcastle take on the champions. So that'll be in a couple of weeks. We hope you can join us. Let's talk about then the back line. We'll first of all start on Nick Pope. He got the nod ahead of Dubravka. Seemed to only got told about 24 hours prior. Did he let Eddie Howe down at all? Did he have enough to do to either say to make that decision justified?
Well, I was just about to say before you put that, I don't think he actually had enough. I don't think we can judge him on that 90 minutes, given that he sort of could have had a deck chair out in that first half, especially. Look, he did what he had to. He was good coming for corners, which sometimes has let Dubravka down. He was commanding. He was forced into a couple of saves, which he did well. I think the main thing to take away from him from that game on Saturday is the fact that he was given the nod. We've heard a lot about Dubravka this summer, and agents coming out and saying, well, if he's not playing, he's going. I think it'll be hard for Dubravka to find his way back in now. I think if Howe's chosen Pope, it's because he wants Pope to be his number one for the foreseeable. Now it depends, is Dubravka happy to sit on the bench and fight for his chance, or does he want first team football elsewhere? Because a lot of Premier League clubs would snap their hand off for Dubravka. So it's interesting to see whether he'll still be on Tyneside later this summer.
Yeah, going to be an interesting few weeks, isn't it? Because ideally, you're Eddie Howe, you're the ownership in Newcastle. You want those two solid goalkeepers battling out for number one. But I think Nick Pope is just slightly better than Dubravka. There's not much in it, but as you say, Howe's made his decision, and it's likely to be the one unless Pope massively messes up. That's going to be the decision for the rest of the season. And Dubravka, the noises are that he doesn't want to be number two. It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, like you say, a very good goalkeeper. Leicester, obviously with Schmeichel heading out the door thereafter, goalkeeper Newcastle after Maddison. It's been touted there could be something happening there. But if you're Eddie Howe, you're going to do everything to persuade Martin Dubravka to stop one, because you want a really good quality backup, someone pushing your number one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we asked the question in the post-match press conference. We asked Eddie, he's got 4 goalkeepers on the books. Is the likelihood that we could see one of them going? And Howe admitted that in an ideal world, he wants to keep all 4 at the club, but he knows that might not be possible if one of the 3 sort of reserves fancy move away. He wouldn't go as far as to say whether it would be Gillespie or Darlow going, because obviously we know that Darlow is probably going to have no chance of playing this season. So I think it probably depends on if Darlow or Gillespie have an offer come in for them. Then I think Howe's going to be far more likely to keep Dubravka at the club beyond the summer.
Yep, I mean it's ironic as well that for all these years Dubravka's not had the competition. He's now had the competition, and he's fallen to be second choice, isn't it? It's a funny old world. The defense, Now, I know you're going to tell me that you told me so when it comes to Eddie Howe's defensive choices. We did have a debate on last week's episode whether Botman would start. It was split in the comments as well, but Aaron felt he'd seen the hint that Eddie Howe with the team Eddie Howe had chosen over the pre-season friendlies at St James's Park, that he would not play Botman against Forest. I shot him down and was proven wrong. I got a text off Aaron when the team news dropped. I was in sunny Lincoln. I'm going to get that in there before you tip the nick at me for that as well. I was at a flower show, so I didn't get to see the full game. I enjoyed the flower show at Lincoln Cathedral, though. Things you do for the in-laws. And I got a text of you out to say, I told you so. And you were right.
I've never been so happy to see Botman not in the team. You know what it is? Part of me really wanted to see him get his debut at St James's. Part of me really wanted to just be able to sit here today and say, look, I told you so. I just felt like last week, we saw those 2 pre-season games back to back, and I think it was a statement from Howe to play Pope, Shaw, Byrne, Target, Trippier. That looked like it was a settled back line, and I just didn't think there'd be any change from that in the first game of the season.
But what is the plan now, though? Because them two, Byrne and Shaw, played really well together. Shaw scores an absolute wonder goal, but from what I saw, they look composed and what have you. What is the plan here? Because if it plays out like Bruno did, and Bruno had to wait 6 weeks for his start, didn't he? He had to wait until that Southampton game. That's a long time to wait with the World Cup coming up. I'm just wondering what Howe says to Botman, because he can't drop Byrne or Share, can he, for the game against Brighton after they performed so well? So what does he say to his £30 million centre-back who's got hopes of being in the World Cup?
If I'm completely honest, I hope that Botman was listening to Eddie Howe's post-match press conference, because obviously Howe was asked why Botman didn't start, and Howe basically came out and said he will have a fantastic career for this club. He's a top player. He couldn't have been more complimentary about him, but he just said there's such a competition for places. He wants to just do what he did with Bruno. He wants to just wait, let him settle, let him find out about the league, and then throw into the deep end.
Well, I've got the quotes here from Eddie Howe, and he said, so Shaw and Byrne, were excellent second half of last season with Jamal, who more than played his part. All 3 centre-backs for me were excellent, but we needed more strength and depth. We couldn't rely this season on 3. Fernandez has had quite a few injury problems. We felt it was a position we needed to strengthen. Sven was a long-term target for us. We were delighted to sign him. This period, however long it is before he gets his opportunity to start, will do him the world of good. He'll get to know the league. He'll get to know the speed. I've got no doubts about him as a player. He'll be a top player for this football club, in my opinion. But there's real competition for places. Dan and Fabian and Jamal, they're not going to give their shirts up easily. That's a battle I love to see unfold. I knowing I've got that quality certainly bodes well for the season. And it's great to have that dilemma. And it's just going to be so interesting to see how it plays out. And again, I think with Bruno as well, the way it played out for Bruno, it's a bit of Howe just laying down that authority, isn't it? I'm the boss here. This is a team game. You may have cost X amount of money. You may be very highly rated. You may have been wanted by AC Milan, but it's a team game. The team comes first, and what I say goes.
I mean, it's a luxury for Howe, isn't it? In another world, he would have to throw Botman in, but he doesn't, because Byrne and Shaw have been so good together. It does sort of feel unfair for them to be dropped, because neither of them have really put a foot wrong in the last couple of weeks, at the back end of last season. Look, there's bound to be clamour. Everybody wants to see Botman. He came on for a minute, and every time he touched the ball, there was like an ole from the crowd. Yes, they were 2-0 up. Everyone was in a very good mood, but he got the reception that Bruno got in January. And I just think Howe was proven right with that decision to allow Bruno time to bed in. He's now got the luxury to do it again. Botman, I think we'll probably see him in the League Cup game next month. We could maybe see him against City if he goes 5 at the back and plays 3 centre-backs. But I think for as long as he goes 4 at the back, I think probably for the next month to 6 weeks, Byrne and Shaw are probably going to be the first 2.
We've got Roger Cook there saying faultless centre-back double. If it takes 6 weeks for Robocop, nice nickname there, so be it. We now have a worldy, amazing Bruno in midfield. And it's a good test of character of Botman, isn't it, as well? Because, again, looking from the outside in, you would think he's cost that amount of money. They've beaten AC Milan to the signing. He's a certain star, but he's not, clearly. But that then turns to Botman, and it's all about how Botman handles this. I mean, I don't for one second think he's going to go banging on the door, kicking up a fuss, is he? He's just going to let his ability and let his talent shine through on the training pitch, and hope when he does get his opportunity that he takes it. A lot like Bruno did against Southampton and in those cameo appearances he made before that.
Yeah, Botman just needs to look at what happened with Bruno in January. He'll understand why it's happening. How will have given him all this information off the pitch and explained why he's not playing. And look, we're gonna have hopefully 5 or 6 years of Sven Botman. It doesn't matter if it takes 6 weeks for us to see him properly in that defence. I think, as I've touched on, Dan Burn was fantastic on Saturday. Fabian Schär has really, really improved in the last couple of months. Let them just continue this sort of solid defensive partnership and understanding that they've got. And then in a couple of weeks' time, when maybe results change and the season's sort of a bit further along, then we can maybe introduce Botman into the team.
Got Graham Morton here saying, strength and depth. We can't have a first 11. Botman will prove his quality in time. How joyful. Remember where we were. This is fantastic to have choices, and a thumbs up. And I think that sums it up perfectly, really. I think that's it. You're looking at the bigger picture. You look at the top teams across Europe, and they all have squad depth. And it has been, as Graham says, there so long. If Burn gets suspended or if Schär gets injured, it's nice to know that it's not the end of the world, and previously you lose your best players in Newcastle and you're thinking, well, yeah, this person can fill in, but they're nowhere near that standard. Whereas you have Botman and you have Lascelles as well, who I still think on his day, when everything clicks into place, he's not a bad backup to have. Fernandez as well, if he's fit.
And Eddie Howe made a clear point in that press conference. He wasn't asked about he's asked about Lascelles' injury, but in that question where he talks about Botman, he wasn't actually asked about Lascelles. He was asked essentially, what does Botman need to do to replace Burn and Schär? And Eddie Howe came out straight away and said, you need to remember Lascelles is in this conversation.
He's very good though, isn't
he?
He's
very good at doing that. He never, ever, ever leaves a man behind. He never throws anyone under the bus. He must do wonders for them players' confidence behind the scenes, because, you know what I mean? Even last summer when we were talking about the likes of Dummett and Richie, he just does not have a bad word to say about them. Must be fantastic to play for him. And it's no surprise to see what they're doing, on the pitch, given, sort of the backing that they've received like that.
Tony Taylor asks, how can you fight for your place when you aren't playing? And I guess, that comes down to just making sure you're working week in, week out, day after day on the training ground as best you can, having the best attitude, understanding it's a team game, understanding the club is bigger than any player and anything that you want to achieve. It's all about the club, because if the club does well, you will do well. And it's just about applying yourself right to the challenge ahead of you.
And definitely, and look, Eddie Howe, we tried to get this first 11 out of him last week in pre-season, and he was giving nothing away. And, he kept insisting that there was still another 5 days of training to go and anything can happen in that time. So he's definitely looking at these players on the training pitch and working out who, suits each other. But look, going back to your point before, as I've said, it's a luxury to have 3 or 4 centre-backs battling it out. John Joe Shelby's missing, and we're not worrying about a midfield. This is what they need to get right in attack. We need a striker brought in so that when Wilson is injured, we're not worrying. And essentially, we need a right midfielder brought in so that when he's not playing, we've got Miggy. That's the point, isn't it? It's about building a team. It's about building depth. For so many years, Newcastle United have been in 11. Oh, Maxie's injured. Well, that's it. We're not going to win. Eddie Howe is trying to build a proper 23-man squad where every single player can be at it when they're called upon. And this means when Botman eventually comes into the team, we're going to have someone like Burn or Schär on the bench who we know can do a job. Dubravka on the bench who we know can do a job. So I've got no issues with, Botman not starting it and Howe's team selections.
And it's funny because if you flip it around to that forward line, you would take someone's hand off to have the same dilemma up front where you have got 2 or 3 quality strikers, battling for that number 9 shirt, battling for that centre forward shirt. And we'll talk about strikers now. A lot of people asking in the comments about forward line additions. And I have to say that, we were linked to Dom and Calvert-Lewin. And a lot of people said, when I said, he's got this injury record. Unfortunately for Everton, he has picked up a bad injury. So I'm glad that Newcastle have avoided that, because I do think he's unfortunately one of those players who now is just going to be absolutely strung by injuries, and he's not going to play full seasons. But it's really interesting that that's the search for a new striker, because Callum Wilson proved that when fit, he's just a joy to watch. I mean, the finish from Callum Wilson, that's not a fluke. He knows exactly what he's doing there. To come across the defender, outside the foot, that, for me, now Cher's goal was excellent, but for me, Wilson's goal was even better, because it was just, I don't even know how to describe.
I don't know how he did it, to be fair.
No.
How he got that loop from so close to the goal to leave Henderson sort of perplexed like that. It was a fantastic
and to do it on
finish.
purpose as well.
Yeah.
He's not just stuck a foot out. He knows exactly what he's doing, and that for me makes it even more special. That every inch of that goal was he knew what he was doing. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's a special player. It was a perfect homecoming for him. You know, he's so many times we wanted to see him get a run of games, and the back of last season, start of this season, he looks fantastic. I'm sick of saying it on this podcast, but I'm just praying this season.
You know what I noticed this last week?
Praying.
You said you were sick of saying stuff about Bruno. We're not sick of it. We're running out of things that we haven't already said. I think everyone is loving the fact that we're just repeating ourselves, aren't we, about how good these players are.
Yeah, look, I mean, I can't rate Wilson any higher. I think behind Harry Kane, if you look at the England team, he should be banging on that door. I think Southgate's got to really consider him. If he can stay fit from now to November, he's got a huge chance of being on that plane.
Yeah,
he was amazing on Saturday, and you know what it is? It's not just what he does in front of goal with the ball. His movement is second to none.
I like the way he winds the opposition up.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. The way he puts his body about, the way. Honestly, we've waited so long for number 9 like that, and we've got him, and I just feel like I've just got to keep our fingers crossed this season that he stays fit. And look, I think they will bring a striker in for the end of the window, but I think it's probably got to be a backup to Wilson now. I don't think. Look, the budget probably isn't there to bring someone in that's definitely going to start over Wilson. But for me, I would maybe just be bringing in a youngster that we know.
You're rolling the dice, though, aren't you? I know he came out unscathed against Forest, and fingers crossed he does for the rest of the season. But you're rolling that dice, and you're going to need. I would like to see them bring someone in on the level of Callum Wilson who pushes him, because I think that's just going to make him an even better player. But as we've mentioned previously, who that is, there's no realistic names out there that jump up at you. Someone mentioned Ivan Toney, but he's going to cost the best part of 40 million probably. Brentford are going to be reluctant to sell. He's not going to come and know that he has to wait for Callum Wilson to pick up an injury to start.
Well, this is what I was just about to say. Players like Toney at Brentford, Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Everton, who when fit are starting week in, week out, I don't think they're going to be happy to come to Newcastle and sit on the bench. I mean, we know that, Armando Broja, who may or may not be leaving Chelsea, he wants first team assurances, which is maybe why that West Ham deal fell through when they signed Skamaka. So this is why it's such a tough market, because it's not just finding the right player, it's finding the player that knows. A bit like Tottenham Kane at Tottenham a couple of seasons ago, when they were trying to find a backup from, but they knew that when they went to Tottenham, they weren't going to get in. So, interesting to see, the sort of caliber that they bring in before the end of the window.
I saw Lookman left his team and joined Atlanta. I was shocked no Premier League side came in for him. I know he hasn't got the most prolific record, but he did well at Fulham on loan. He was at Leicester last season. He did well there. I would have gone and tried to get another loan. I don't know how much he's joined Atlanta for. I can't imagine it being that much. He's a young lad. He's a little bit of a different type of player to Wilson as well. And I would have gone there. As a backup. I know I've just said I want someone on the level, but we're also dealing in realism. I think he would have been a decent option to have.
Yeah, now you mention that, I mean, he's a name that didn't even crop up this summer. I don't think any Premier League team really went for him. 12.5 million seems like quite a steal for Atlanta.
So how much he's gone for?
How much the move is, and crucially, he can play anywhere across the front three. I don't think he just plays as a striker, and I think he comes in off the left quite a lot. So yeah, I am surprised no Premier League team's gone for him.
Now, I know you've just seen a comment in there. I'll ask you about it in a moment. Neil Jackson's put an interesting comment out. I just want to talk about Wilson's reaction to scoring. He looked like a player when he was celebrating who would come back from a long-term injury or hadn't scored in 4 years. It wasn't just a celebration of scoring a goal. He really, really enjoyed it. I know that sounds daft when I'm talking about celebration, but it looked like there was something more than just scoring a goal in his celebration.
I think we know how much he struggled with injuries, not just at Newcastle. We had those two terrible injuries at Bournemouth. I think he's probably just enjoying being back out on that pitch and thinking, how long is this going to last for? But yeah, look, he thrives off it. He he did a good interview a couple of weeks ago where he said, all about his sort of love of scoring goals. And look, long may it continue. I really, really hope he has a good, solid season, injury free. And I would love to see him at the World Cup. Can you imagine that?
I think if he stays fit,
yeah, like I said, if he stays fit and if he finds the form that he had the last 6 games of last season, it's
all about scoring goals, because we know that Southgate likes to pick players he's picked before. So
he's going to have to do something big to get to. But work his way.
You look around. I mean, yesterday Man United lost to Brighton, and I was listening to 606 on the drive back up the Tyneside, and Man United fans were fuming at Rashford, and he might have become a bit of a scapegoat for what's the troubles down there. But he's usually in and around that squad, isn't he? And you think, well, if he's not scoring it, Callum Wilson just has to keep fit and score goals, and he will be well within contention for that squad.
100%. I mean, you look at Rashford, out of form last season, didn't have a best game yesterday. I know Sancho's a winger, but he's another attacker that is in and out of form. You've got, behind Kane, you've probably got Tammy Abraham.
Depends. Doing the business. I don't know how he started so far, but last season did the business.
Yeah, it depends how he starts in Serie A under Jose. Apart from that, I mean, Danny Ings is too injury prone at Villa. Watkins didn't even start against Bournemouth. There's chances there for him to be the second or third choice striker, definitely.
It's going to be interesting if he can keep fit. Fingers crossed he can, because I'm a huge asset to Newcastle United. Just before we go on to talk about Aaron Stokes, a lot of people, you guys in the comments are referencing that he did quite well against Forest. I'll just remind you of the little quiz that me and Aaron are going to do every week. So I've given Aaron 5 clues, and he has to name the link. The link is going to be a Newcastle United player of past or present. And the 5 clues this week are Leicester City, Wolves, Sunderland, Grimsby, and Andy Cole. These clues are either teams that this person has played for or done something magical for Newcastle against. So you might have scored a record goal, an important goal, what have you. So Leicester City, Wolves, Sunderland, Grimsby, and Andy Cole. Which Newcastle player, past or present, are we looking for as the answer that links all them? So get your guesses into the comments if you're watching live. Someone has wrote Dubravka twice or thrice. I don't know if he's talking about our views on Dubravka, or I don't think that was a guess, because it's definitely not Martin Dubravka. But if you've got an idea which Newcastle player links Leicester, Wolves, Sunderland, Grimsby, and Andy Cole, pop that into the comments, and we'll get Aaron's answer towards the end of the show. Now, on to St. Maximin. Everyone has said big season for him. How do you think he started?
Really, really well. I actually wrote about it yesterday. I thought Bruno took all the lights from him as usual. Shaw obviously got praise for the goal, Wilson for the goal as well. But I thought Aaron St. Maximin actually deserved a lot more credit than he's getting. I thought he was really, really good. From the off, I mean, from the first or second minute, he was absolutely torturing Nico Williams down that left-hand side. And as I touched on earlier in the show, he looked fitter, he looked stronger. His decision-making was better, I thought, in front of goal. He was also making bursts and runs into the 6-yard box, which you don't usually see. There was a chance in the first half where it looked like an absolute certain goal, but he sort of fluffed his lines, couldn't get his head on it. And look, Eddie Howe said last month that they've put a lot of work in, specifically with Maxi on the training ground. They're trying really hard to get the best out of him. But I think my issue with Maxi last season was he would have games like he did on Saturday against the likes of Forest, and then it's
about that consistency.
And then we'll go to Brighton on Saturday and he'll be anonymous, and then we'll go to City the week after where the game isn't suited to him, and he'll have another one. But I thought he was really, really good on Saturday.
What I liked for Wilson's goal is that he made the right pass. Mm-hmm. I think often what we would have seen in that position is that he tries to take the defender on and go towards goal. But what he did was he got involved in that passage of play and just sets Joelinton down the left, and Joelinton pulls it back. Now, for me, and for the guys watching and listening, they'll be saying, well, that's just a little thing, isn't it? That's what we expect of someone. Yeah, but like I said, what we've seen with Maxi of old is that he would take out the ball in the box and try and skip past 12 people and then go back for another. Yeah. But there he's made the right decision, and we just need to see that more.
And I think that's something Howell will have drilled into him. He'll have said, you need to start moving the ball quicker when we've got these players, joining the attacks. And look, I thought he did it well. I thought everything he needed to do. I thought he tracked back a lot more when he needed to. Admittedly, Forest weren't going forward too often, but I thought he grafted. Really, really impressed with him. And like I say, it's all about consistency now. We keep saying this about Maxi, about how good he can be. All that potential's there. It's a huge season for him, but he needs to show that every week.
Got Lee Lawler here saying Nico Williams couldn't cope with Alan St. Max. We've also got a few guesses in for the quiz question. It's Newcastle Fans TV takeover here as well, because there's Lee from Newcastle Fans TV. And we've got Sam as well guessing Scott Sellers. I can tell you, Sam, that you are wrong. It is not Scott Sellers the answer that we are looking for. St. Maxi there, we've praised him for his performance against Forest. A word for Joe Linton, I thought, carried off where he finished off last season. Carried on, rather.
Yeah, good performance. He did what he needed to do. Very, very strong in the middle of the park. Thought him and Bruno worked well as they did. Willock and Longstaff is probably going to be the one that changes out. But I thought, yeah, Jolton just looks like an absolute beast, doesn't he? He looks like he's had a really, really good summer.
And it's great to see him carrying on the form of last season, and he looks like that is his position to lose, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think I can't see him being shifted out that midfield now.
And then we got on to Bruno, and what can we say that hasn't already been said about him? Alan Shearer raving about my match of the day. I think nearly every match report I read just picked up on just how good he is. And I think for me, what is really special about him is just how calm and composed he looks on the ball. Alan Shearer highlighted this in his analysis as well, that the ball's coming down in Newcastle's box, and he's not just booting it up the field, he's bringing it down. He's looking to pass the way out of danger and looking to create something. And that clearly is something that he's comfortable with, and something that Eddie Howe's also seemingly tried to work on. Because I noticed it in the preseason friendlies as well, St. James's Park. They were passing out from the back. And is that something you've noticed? Is that something you think Eddie Howe has worked on during the preseason?
Yeah, I think so. And I think when you've got Bruno sort of holding in Shelby's absence, there's a lot more sort of intricate short passes out the back rather than Shelby sort of looking for that Hollywood pass. I thought, forgive me because I can't remember who tweeted it, but a Newcastle fan made a very, very good point on social media on Saturday night, and that's that Newcastle essentially look like they've got three midfielders in one with Bruno. He can sit and play as defensive midfielder and link the passes. He's box to box. I mean, his fitness is fantastic. And then obviously in the final third, when he's in that intact midfielder spot, I mean, some of the balls he was playing between the lines, I mean, Forest midfield could get nowhere near him. So much power, but at the same time, he's just so poised. I honestly feel like, and I don't feel like it's too soon to be saying this, he's going to be one of the best midfielders we've seen at the club for however many years. He looks that good. And I think the difference between him and Maxi is he never really has an off day. There's games when Newcastle aren't getting sort of the rub of the green and where they haven't got much of the ball, and still he finds the way to perform. I remember Chelsea last season when I think we lost 1-0 towards the back end of the season, and still he was the best player for us. Really, really good. And like I say, he just doesn't miss a beat every week. He's just on it. And I'm going to say it again, I'm just sick of praising him.
Yeah, well, it's great to have a player that just keeps that consistent level up as well. And I think a lot of people might say that he might become one of the best in the Premier League, not just at Newcastle. We've mentioned pretty much everyone, I think, that really stood out. I mean, we spoke before we came on air about Kieran Trippier. One of Forest's only chances came from Trippier letting the man run, and thankfully the header didn't come off. You felt he didn't have his best game, especially the first half, but also the flip side of that is that's because of the bar he's set since he's joined.
Yeah, 100%. I think I came, out of the stands at halftime thinking that he was probably the sort of the weakest link. There was a couple of times where he gave the ball away in sort of sloppy situations. He just didn't look maybe 100% on it. And look, it's easy to forget that it's the first game of the season. It's essentially still pre-season for a lot of these teams. But I thought second half he was really good. Energy was good, but I just thought first half in what was quite a good performance, I thought he was probably just the weak link. There's a couple of times where he was just giving the ball away needlessly, but he redeemed himself second half, I thought.
How do you think Matt Target did? There was a moment. I mean, every player will have this moment, but Nico Williams sold him a dummy, and he did. Didn't look good in that moment. But other than that, how do you think he did?
Yeah, I think the one thing with Target is that, and we've spoke about before, is that sometimes he gets done a bit for pace. I think he's a very, very solid left back, but sometimes when the ball's in behind, he's out of sorts a bit. But if I'm honest, I think Target's hardly put a foot wrong. And I thought second half, when we were going forward down that left, those balls that he plays in behind the back for Wilson to chase, when the ball gets sprayed out to him, really, really effective. And I thought he was.
We were
good
seeing
again.
Trippier doing that as well,
Yeah,
weren't we? And that seems
that
to be
first
a
half.
kind of a plan as well from Eddie Howe's Newcastle United. The give it to the midfielder, you'll get it back, set the winger, the wide midfielder away, and it's over the top. And we saw it a few times from Trippier as well. So that's a really good attacking threat down both flanks. We've got Graham there saying Bruno and Joe Linton have everything between them. Such a great partnership. We've got Tim saying Byrne got stuck into trips after that, which I suppose shows the leadership running through the team there. They're not afraid to voice their opinions. You have got a starting 11. You've got probably a squad of 18 who are not afraid to tell each other that they think that they've stepped out of line or they're not performed as well. We did have a comment up above about Elliot Anderson. Now there was a lot of clamour for him to start against Nottingham Forest. He didn't actually get on. Do you think it was just a bit more realistic that he's just part of the squad? Do you think, given how well he performed, we all got carried away after the preseason performances?
Potentially, I think I'd agree with John in that comment, and I think that when it was 2-0 up and Howe was making sort of rapid fire changes towards the end, bringing Botman on, it would have been nice to get him on, but look, I don't think it's the end of the world that he didn't. You would imagine he would probably going to go out on loan before the end of the month. Obviously, Howe said in his recent press conferences that it looks like you'll be staying, but I think if they bring another two in the attacking department, you would want to get him out on loan so that he's not just sort of sitting on the bench, just getting the odd 5 minutes here and there.
Going to be an interesting one to watch. We'll just finish off on the analysis of the Forest game on that corner from Nottingham Forest.
Don't know what on earth they were thinking.
So for you guys watching and listening, you'll probably have seen it on social media, Match of the Day, when they've all run in right at the death and it just goes straight into Pope's hands.
I mean, someone on social media, summed it up as the still image of Forest attackers in the box being like that was their attacking threat. Summed up on Saturday. Very, very weird move from Steve Cooper. Like you say, I'd be very surprised if they wheel that one out again. But if I'm honest, it is. I went into the season thinking Forest would do okay, but it feels like they've had quite a bad weekend. They come back to the Premier League. It's their first game. They're playing off the park. They hardly have a shot. They've got that corner. Lingard has a stinker. Sunday comes around and I think, well...
I was going to say, did you see anything from Lingard which made you think, I really wish Newcastle had signed him?
Look, I think he doesn't look match fit. I think, he's had a very, very disruptive summer. So he really, really struggled. He couldn't get on the ball. And obviously we asked Steve Cooper after the game about what he thought of Lingard's performance, and he said that he will be a very, very important player for them in time, which I agree with, but they just didn't find him enough. And when he had the ball, he just looked out of sorts. I think he just needs a proper minutes under his belt, bit more time to gel. It's a full new team, you've got to remember. But yeah, he didn't really do anything to make Newcastle fans miss him on Saturday.
There we have it. And a good display as well from more flags prior to the game.
Yeah, really good. I thought the new Dawn flag in the Galgate was really good. Good to see that. Obviously, they gave Derek Wright one at half time as well. So yeah, really, really good. And I think we can expect, bigger and better things this season.
And from what I understand, they were already going to do a Derek Wright display, but then Paul Dummett reached out to ask them as well, which just shows you the impact Derek Wright has had on Newcastle. And still, despite all the wealth and what have you, all this global attention, there is still a real community aspect to Newcastle United, which is just lovely to see.
Yeah, look, I think it's not just Eddie Howe who's sort of building that team spirit. I think all the players are buying into it, the fans are buying into it, the staff. A really, really good moment before the game, actually, which hasn't really been reported, but Dan Ashworth was actually brought into the media room to meet all the journalists one-to-one individually before the game, which, I mean, I don't think Lee Charnley ever really got wheeled out unless he was having a go at some of the chronicled rope. But yeah, Dan Ashworth was brought round, introduced, had a sort of couple of minutes chat with every journalist. And it just goes to show that the club are really, behind the scenes, they're sort of building something really special. They're trying to sort of replace what was lost in that 14 years with a bit more, of a community spirit, as you say.
Well, it's ironic as well that you mentioned Lee Charnley there, and Newcastle just played Nottingham Forest. The news over the weekend that Lee Charnley is set for some sort of advisory role at Nottingham Forest. I can see the look on your face, and the little smirk sums up how you think that one's
exactly
going.
what I was just about to say before. If Forest fans thought Saturday was bad, they wake up Sunday morning and see that Lee Charnley's joining.
Do you know what I'm going to say? And this won't be popular with our listeners or our viewers, but I think, give him a chance to maybe work within a team, because we're praising everything Dan Ashworth and, Darren Eales will do when they come in. But what the good thing Newcastle United have done, the owners have done, have set up a board. All these people they brought in are strong in certain elements of running a football club. And yes, Lee Charnley didn't help himself with some of the decisions made, but he was also sort of, not helped in a large part by Mike Ashley, and the fact that he pretty much had to do everything. And now what he did do, he didn't do well, but it's going to be a lot easier to do it as part of a team than it is when you're one man doing it all, isn't it?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, look, he did have to run around and do about 10 jobs at Newcastle due to the fact that they didn't have a proper board in place. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what this advisory role is, because, yeah, look, interesting.
It doesn't matter. We've moved on. It's what is it? It's a new dawn. It's a new day, new era. Right, where should we go next? I'll tell you what we'll do next is there's been a good little chat there I've seen in the comments about Hudson-Odoi. Now, you mentioned a few weeks ago that you would have loved to see him come to Newcastle United. We've got El Stapleton, and I can't see the other chap, but there's loads of comments going back and forth about Hudson-Odoi, who appears to want to leave Chelsea. They are spending like no tomorrow, bringing in players. They seem to got about 12 players for every position. Talented lad. He has been hit by a couple of injuries. It'd be interesting to see if his wish to leave is granted, and how Chelsea would allow him to leave as well. Would it be on loan, permanent move?
Yeah, it looks like, from what I've been seeing over the weekend, it looks like he would leave on loan. I know that, admittedly, I did say a couple of weeks ago I'd love to see him, but it looks like Leicester and Southampton are the two sort of key players trying to make that happen in the next couple of weeks. Look, as El Stapleton says in the comments here, he would need to be, on a fitness regime, because, a lack of game time under Tuchel, plus, a lot of injuries in recent months. But look, he would offer something different. He can play on both flanks. He's also played as a wing back under Tuchel. It's not too long ago that he's been linked with Bayern Munich and Dortmund and clubs like that. So there's clearly a player there. And, it could potentially do as sort of a cheap option towards the end of the window.
I think loans are going to play a big part, aren't they, in where Newcastle go next, because of the budget and the financial fair play. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on the loan deals. Now, we've got Roger Cook here asking about anything and a renewed interest in Everton's Anthony Gordon. Now, he seemed to play, or he did play rather, as a kind of the forward man for Everton in their opener over the weekend against Chelsea. Today, our chief sports writer Lee Ryder has got a story up on the website that Newcastle are considering a fresh move for Gordon. Obviously, earlier in the window, there was a bit of interest there, got rebuffed. This link seemed to divide a lot of people. Again, I don't think it's on the basis of talent, because I think everyone can see the potential this lad's got. I think some of it's on the basis of attitude. I think some of it's on the basis of, well, where does he fit in, really?
Yeah, I think talent wise, he clearly is a very good player. Lampard rates him really highly. Everton fans weren't split at all when this news first came up. They were really, really, desperate for him to stay. Yeah, I think Newcastle fans were split because of this attitude, and I think because in the two games that he played against Newcastle last season, he maybe wound the fans up a little bit. Is that why they don't want him?
I mean, if you wind Emil Kraft up so much that they go head to head, you must
You've
be a
clearly
very good
done
wind-up
something
merchant.
wrong, definitely. But look, there's bags of talent there. Very, very young. You can play down either wing. Obviously, he was used as sort of their out and out striker against Chelsea on Saturday because Calvert-Lewin's out. As you touched on, Lee Ryder's reported this morning that they're considering maybe going back in for him if Maddison doesn't come to fruition. The thing with Everton is Lampard came out a couple of weeks ago and said we're not selling Gordon, we're going to give him the number 10 ship, blah, blah, blah. Two big injuries at the back on Saturday. Godfrey's going to be out for, you'd think, most of the season with that nasty looking injury. And Yerry Mina's also out. Is it now a case that they need to raise some funds so that they can sign two big names?
Well, they're bringing in Cody, aren't they, for reportedly 12 million, and there's a centre midfielder from Ligue 1 for around, I think, about 40 million.
Onana, and then they also want Idrissa Gueye back from PSG. There's three signings that you need to account for.
And they need a striker.
And they need a striker to replace Calvert-Lewin. So, look, that's probably where Everton will have some wiggle room if they need to sort of balance the books. But it remains to be seen as to whether he's Newcastle's actual first target.
Would you take him?
At the minute, yes, because I think we need bodies in. He's a young player. He's clearly highly rated on Merseyside.
Where does he fit, though?
I think he's
not, again, is he going to leave Everton, where he's pretty much guaranteed first team football, to come and potentially sit on the bench?
I'm not sure. Look, he's still a young lad, isn't he? I'm just checking here how old he is. What, 21? It's a big move for him. It just depends what he wants, and I think the rumblings that we've been hearing is that he's open. I think Lee Ryder's he's reported on that today and in the past that if the right offer came, I don't think he'd be too adverse to leaving Everton. So he doesn't look like he's their first target, but it's probably one to watch in the next couple of weeks.
On to James Maddison. Newcastle win up whether to go in for yet another bid. He started for Leicester, man of the match. He assisted one goal from a corner. He went close with a header, which flashed narrowly wide of the post. It's something like, now my mind serves me correct, he's been involved in 2022 in 13 Premier League goals for Leicester. Across the whole of the league, only Harry Kane has been involved in more, and I think it's 21. So I think what we saw on Sunday yesterday, wasn't it, that we saw on the pitch exactly why Newcastle United want him, because he was getting about the pitch, he was creating chances, he was picking passes, he was man of the match, for goodness sake. If there was a performance where you go, where you want to try and maybe persuade Newcastle to up that bid, and he's that was probably it.
Yeah, very, very good. I mean, if he wants to leave Leicester, then he's going to about it the right way. I think the question with Maddison is, if they're going with a third bid, which they're apparently considering, it's gonna take out a lot of their budget, if not all their budget. In this window, look, I can't believe I'm saying this, but do Newcastle need James Maddison? Because he doesn't like playing out wide. He said as much in interviews. He doesn't like Rodgers playing him out on the left. I think if he wanted to come, he'd want to be a 10, which Howe doesn't really use.
To you guys listening live, watching live, help Aaron out with his dilemma there. Do Newcastle United need James Maddison? Pop into the comments and we'll get through the best of them. I mean, we had this discussion, didn't we, a few weeks ago about Paqueta, and it is about getting the balance, isn't it? Like, these players that Newcastle have been linked to and I'm watching are quality players. But with Diaby, well, actually, maybe Diaby falls into the same boat as Maddison and Paqueta. Do they really need them? And what they do need is clearly a striker. Sam Mulner says no to Maddison. We know he's not a fan of Maddison's attitude. You can listen to a podcast that Sam joined us on last week, where we went through the big Newcastle United forum, and Sam shared his thoughts on Maddison amongst a lot of other topics that we discussed. But it is about, isn't it, Aaron, getting those levels and I suppose it's a ruthless game, football, and at certain points you just say, well, okay, maybe we don't need him right now, but there's a chance to go and sign him, so we'll take him, and that maybe changes the priority for January or next summer.
Yeah, look, it's all about what they want to do in the short term. I think if we were sat here 2 months ago, and someone offered us James Maddison, I don't think there'd be any single fan. I certainly wouldn't be turning it down. But we know how much they've struggled this summer to get their targets over the line. We know that ultimately, if they can only bring one or two more in, it needs to be, further up the pitch or out wide.
We've got a few comments here, haven't we? So we've got Billy Gardner saying he's better than Almiron and Longstaff. Graham saying, yep, quality number 10, 442 diamonds. Graham NUFC saying, yes, he's better than Willock. Leave Bruno and Joe Linton box to boxes and play him as an attacking midfielder. Tiger Studio says, need to get Maddison. He will lift this whole team. Given his level of quality, Roger Cook says, I think it'd be a huge team upgrade as the peak of the midfield three with Bruno and Joe behind him. Worth a change. Neil saying, yes, he's a good playmaker and can split the defenders. So overwhelmingly, I think people are wanting Maddison through the door.
Look, I'm like I said, it's not that I'm against James Maddison signing. He's a fantastic footballer. He's done wonders for Leicester. I'm really surprised he hasn't had more England caps than he has. But it would sort of need a little change. Yes, Willock plays at the front of this three, but he's not really a 10, is he? He's a defender. It might actually take, as someone's put in the comments there, sort of a formation change, which I don't think I was going to do.
Interesting couple of points there. That a lot of people who want Maddison in have said, you play Bruno and Joe Linton. It's just Joe Linton, you play Joe Linton. I love the fact that we're at this stage of the journey and Joe Linton is like second or third on the team sheet, and there's no question in people's minds that whoever comes in the remainder of the window, Joe Linton is up there with Bruno and St. Maximin. That is a testament to him and Eddie Howe for finding this magic within him. The question I want to ask you guys watching, I'll ask you as well, Aaron, is if it's between Maddison and a striker, what do people want? So we've got David Keys here saying what's happening with Sesko, and there'll be other people chucking in names as well. So do you want to just answer that one on for David first, and then we'll see what people say about a striker or Maddison?
Yeah, I mean, Sesko is an interesting one. We know his agent was on Tyneside earlier this summer, and it sort of brought his name into the mainstream. Before that, no one really had been talking about.
He was just enjoying the bridges. Yeah, that's what he was doing.
It looks like maybe he was because, it looks like over the weekend, Salzburg desperate to keep him. Obviously, they lost Adeyemi this summer to go and replace Haaland. It looks like Man United maybe looking to get Sesko in, and also Leipzig, as they do so often, taking another one of Salzburg's players. So I don't personally think that Sesko will happen. He would be a fantastic player. I mean, he showed what he can do against Liverpool in pre-season. But just on your question, I think if it's a Maddison or it's a 10 or it's a striker, then it's a striker for me.
We've got Billy Gardner saying, well, a striker if it's one other than no brainer and truth. Roger saying it's a straight answer, has to be a striker. And people might be thinking, well, why are you saying one or the other? But as Aaron mentions there, budget-wise and what have you.
Time-wise,
yeah.
Look, they've got 2-3 weeks to get it done, and we know that
it could very well come down to one or the other, couldn't
100%. And look, they had Botman, Target, and Pope through the door before July. We're now at the 8th of August. They've gone 6 weeks without getting their targets. It shows how tricky the market is. So look, we know how keeps stressing it when he speaks to us that they're trying. He wants more players in. It just depends whether they can get them over the line.
Gerald Friedman there says, forget Maddison, get Dior before Arsenal do, and convince Sesko, job done. I like your optimism, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. Before we wrap up then, we did have that quiz question. I give Aaron 5 clues. Leicester, Wolves, Sunderland, Grimsby, and Andy Cole. What or who is the Newcastle United player, past or present, that links those 5 clues? Your guess?
I'm going to go for David Kelly.
And the answer is David Kelly. We did have one right answer. Someone wrote Ned. Can't quite remember who it was. I think it might have been Graham, actually. Apologies if it wasn't. He was correct. So he played for Leicester, played for Wolves, played for Sunderland. He scored that goal against Grimsby, which sent Newcastle up. And then, of course, he was pretty much replaced by Andy Cole, although they did have that brilliant few moments together, didn't they? I always remember that Leicester City game where they thumped them. What was it, 6-1, 7-1? Well before your time, though, and I was only about 8 months old, but I'm sure we've all seen the highlights on good old VHS or YouTube. To finish off, then, I just want to ask a very simple question to you, Aaron. Haaland, great Premier League debut, scored 2, could have had more. Just looks a cut above everybody else. Absolutely brilliant. What a bargain as well. Was it 50 odd million?
Yeah,
goodness me.
2 mil or something like that. So daft, really.
Can he beat Alan Shearer's record? I know we're only one game in, but hey, can he do it?
We'll maybe get ahead of ourselves. But look, I think what he's shown in the top flight in Germany, what he showed yesterday, he looks an absolute monster of a player. He's 22 now. He's got 258 to go. He's needing to hit 25 goals a season for 10 years. I'm going to say no. I think if Kane doesn't break it, no one breaks it. So I'm going to say no.
You know what though? And I know we've only one game in. If he stays in the Premier League, if he stays with City,
this is the big if though, because
it's longevity which is going to be key.
I mean, this is the thing with Kane. There was so much talk a couple of years ago about, is he going to go to Madrid and be the next Galactico? This could easily happen with Haaland. You could see a Real Madrid or someone or Bayern coming to get him. I'm going to say no. I've got to stick with Shearer. I can't be. It's blasphemy on this podcast to say that he's going to beat the record.
Well, I'm glad that there's some debate and discussion, because I think he will do. If he stays in the Premier League, I think he might just break it. Come back to us in 10 years, yeah, right? We'll still be here. We'll still be here. Gerald there says, good job. Thank you very much. Just got out of bed in a great mood here in Texas. Nice to have viewers and listeners from the other side of the world. And Graham points out, I think that Haaland is on something along the lines of £300,000 per week. So maybe he's not that cheap. But hey, in the world of football, that's not a bad weekly wage for the talent he appears to be. Watch him. They'll be the only 2 goals he scores this season. He'll become a flop. Well, fingers crossed he doesn't score on the 21st of August anyway. And on that date, just remember, once again, free live event at the Tyneside Irish Centre, kicking off at noon. The link for tickets is in the comment. I'll pop the link for tickets in the podcast description as well. Do come along. Aaron will be on the panel. Gibbo, Lee Ryder, I'll be hosting. And we'll have the Times' Henry Winter. We'll have a raffle in aid of the food bank and the Sir Bobby Robson Foundation. We hope to see you guys there. Please remember to like and follow the podcast through your podcast provider. And leave us a rating and review. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and head over to chroniclelive.co.uk to keep up to date with all the latest Newcastle United news. Thank you very much for tuning in.